Hi, how are you today? I wanted to talk about the many ways that Azura has taught me things and changed me. If you have a very close bond, with your dog or pet, I think you're going to be able to relate to many of these things. And I don't mean to sound snobbish or anything, but I do think I really, really had a close bond with my Azura, and I always I'm a teacher, so I always had the attitude of wanting to learn. You know what I mean? So I always have this open mind of what can I learn? What can I learn? I always want to keep learning things. And the other thing that contributed to this is that Azura was sick from the beginning. When she came to me, she had a lot of little things going on and some more medium scary things, but like I never thought she would pass away. Like the last 3 months were such a shock for me, and it all happened so fast. But before those 3 months, she did have many scary-ish moments, but never like what I thought would be even life-threatening, except for one time we rushed to the ER because she swallowed a bee, and that was very, very scary. That was life-threatening. But anyway, it's a long story. I have so many things to share with you. But what I'm trying to say is because she was ill, a little bit here and there, she had a lot of problems with her stomach, like regurgitating and vomiting. And skin issues, like she had back issues. So I had to read her, if that makes sense. I had to be very, very sensitive to her. And my really good friends called me a helicopter mom. And I was first offended, but it is true. Partially it's true. But most of it, I did feel like it was unfair. It's true. It is true. I'm a helicopter mom. But I felt like if anybody else were in my shoes, they would do something very similar. Meaning that because she had so many scary things happen with her health that were scary to me at the time, I watched her very closely. You know what I mean? So like even if she ran around and got hyper and then I could see her breathing really, really hard, I would literally interrupt the conversation I'm having with my friend and go get water for her. And, like only like 5 minutes have passed and then I'll go do it again, and people might find that rude or excessive or whatever, but I didn't want her to overexert herself. And if she was having trouble breathing and struggling to cool down, I wanted to make sure she had enough water in her bowl. That's just one tiny example, but I'm sure that looks like a helicopter mom. But in my opinion, I felt like I was doing the right thing, and I still don't change my mind about it. Because of these things, I was more attentive to my dog, and I wanted her to communicate to me whenever she wasn't well, and animals have a tendency to mask, their ailments and their frailties, because of the survival instinct. They don't want to show that they're sick, so often they'll go off, like I've heard many dog stories, they'll go off into a closet or some quiet place and they like never do that, and suddenly they do that, and that's a clear indicator that something's wrong. Maybe it's not like a life-threatening thing, but sometimes it is very, very serious when a dog's acting that out of sorts. It's very out of their norm, So I truly believe in that if you really love your dog, you need to know what their norms are. And anytime things are even a little bit outside of the norm, just watch it. I don't mean to freak you out, but don't get overly, freaked out. But definitely pay attention to it, because if they're showing a bit of signs, then they might be trying to mask it. And so when a little bit of a difference actually creeps out, if that makes sense, then there's probably something bigger going on underneath. I hope that makes sense. So, sometimes it ends up being just a small thing and then it passes. When you notice something that's a little bit out of your dog's norm, and every dog has their own norm, you know what I mean? So then you just want to watch it. You just want to keep an eye on it, keep monitoring it. And when in doubt, definitely just, take them to the vet. So that's a long introduction. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I observed my dog very closely, and there's so much I learned. There's some weird ones, some random ones, but like, for example, as soon as we went out and we came back, I would open up my front door. The first thing Azura would do is lean in and sniff the apartment. And sometimes, a long time ago, I had friends who were, flying in every single weekend to New York City, and so they would come and stay with me. So sometimes they would come while I was out, and then when we came home, they were here, so I think she was trying to sniff to see if they were here or not, if we had any guests. So it really got me thinking, like, wow, the first thing you walk into a place and you sniff it is it's not human behavior. It's totally dog and animal behavior. But I think it's great. Like, I think it's very useful. So, whenever you step into a place, like you get into your car, late at night or something, you get in there, sniff it, you come into your home, sniff it. Anytime you're not sure about something, just, take note of what smells and odors are around, because that will tell you a lot. Unfortunately, our nose doesn't work as well as dogs do, but I really think that we, what's the word? Just kind of bypass our whole sense of smell, And the other thing that I do a lot more now is listen, So often I don't even have to turn around. Like, I'll just use my ears. And so, like, I'll know if somebody's coming, or I'll know if, something's going on outside, or I had like a water heater that kind of broke during the time Azura and I were here, and so like I could hear this like drip drip drip. So anytime I hear like a constant tick tick tick, that kind of thing, it always freaks me out now, because I feel like there's a leak somewhere. That's usually the sound of water, or like, like a clock, which is not that bad, or something's going on outside, So like, whenever I hear certain noises, it definitely alerts me. It just kind of opened up like a whole new world for me. Just noticing how dogs, like her ears are like, they point outward, right? And then like, they point forward, but then like they'll point outward, you know what I mean? So like, I can usually tell, like, or they'll really perk up and then her head goes down like this. And so that's usually when like there's something really interesting right in front of her. Her whole head and her ears, they kind of turn, and then they, kind of focus down. Or like when she's running, like in the mall or something, instead of her ears being straight, they'll be like pointing outward. And that means like she's getting 360 degree, like sound transmission. And so it's fascinating to me. I think it's really interesting. And so just watching her, because I loved her so much, just watching and observing her, I just learned so much. I mean, those are just a couple examples. I have so many. The other thing I really learned from her is that, dogs, they're a very good judge of character. Literally how dogs say hello, they go up to each other, they sniff, 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 sniff. They go to their rear ends, sniff, 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 and they go, yo, you're okay, And then they make friends. Or they're like, and then they end up going. Or some of them, like, they might stand up real straight like this, And then that's a way of saying like, don't mess with me, or their hackles go up, or like all the tiny little body language things. That's like my next topic, is body language. Let's stick to this one. Is they just sniff, they just figure it out within like a few seconds, like 5 seconds. They already know what the other dog's character is. It's uncanny. It's incredible. And my dog did the same thing to humans. We would go out into public and she would choose. There was only one dog, because she was such a sweet dog. She was just hyper, so like a lot of people maybe, she was a little too much energy for them, but I've never seen her, she would like be a little too much, so that she might like hurt you, like scratch you or bite you from playing or something, but she was never vicious. Never, 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 ever. I've never seen her get angry and vicious, except for one time. We were in the mall, and there was this guy working at the the like makeup counter, and as soon as I started going towards him, and she started growling, and she was like really saying like, no, I don't like you, I don't want to go near you. And so I was thinking, wow, because she would literally just like let robbers come in and go, and just say hello. But she is a very good guard dog in the sense that like the perimeter, so like if anyone was coming in like on the grass in front of our window, she would start barking at it. If she heard something threatening in front of our front door, she would bark at it. I always went over there and I checked it out, and then I told her, oh, that's just so-and-so, or that's just this, or that's just the noise of the something, and then she'll be fine. So I highly recommend, if you have a dog that barks a lot, don't just tell them to be quiet. Just go. They're trying to do a job for you because they love you, so go and see what it is. And then show them through your leadership and through your body language that it's not a threat, and you're in charge, and they did their job. Say good boy, good girl, you know what I mean? And just, reward them for alerting you to it. That's what Azura did all the time. And I never just shushed her. I always walk up to there and go right next to her. And then I take a look and I go, oh, that. And I would process it with her so she knows. So there were many times when we were exposed to, I guess, threatening things that most dogs would find threatening. And she would just watch me and watch my body language, and she would know that everything was fine. If I was starting to panic, like the fire alarm goes on, then she would start running around, and then she would look to me, and then she knew that we would have to, put our coats and shoes on and go out. So, she would always look to me for leadership. So that's a moment where I look like I'm panicking, right? I have to hurry up, gather her, go exit the building if it's like a real fire alarm. So, she took her cues from me. But other times, like there would be fireworks, there would be thunderstorms, and I'm just like, ooh, that's a big, thunder. And then she was totally fine with it. So fireworks, once in a while it would bother her, but after a while it didn't, she didn't mind it. It was very, very, just a couple times here and there, and that was it. So dogs really do read, you and your body language. Okay, I totally got sidetracked. So the other next point is body language. I really watched her body language a lot, and I was aware of my own body language too, because she was reading me. I don't think she did it as much as other dogs. I think there were certain expressions that she would do even with her head and her face, and I started to see it in my students' faces. It was so bizarre. And then I was like, oh, that's what that facial expression means. So I started to really pick up on, what things mean and stuff. And so it really started to open up like a lot more possibilities for me. Like I would have conversations with people, and just by the way they spoke, even the words they chose or the words they chose not to use, what they inserted and what they omitted, right? And how they're saying things, and even their facial expression, even their tone of voice. I really began to read it. So now I feel like I'm so much better, at reading people and understanding body language and understanding their intention. On social media, I see all the time that dogs can tell when your demeanor doesn't match your intention. You know what I mean? Like they read that into humans. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's the correct interpretation of it, but there's definitely something where the dog can tell, right, when the human is like genuine or not. And so it's fascinating. It's also fascinating. Another thing I learned from her is like let's say there's two dogs, right? One's your dog, there's another dog, and you can't really read the other dog, but because you know your dog and you can see her reactions, right? Then you know if the other dog, what their intent is. If the other dog does something you're not sure, and then your dog kind of bristles up and kind of braces, then you know that it's not good. It's not something positive, right? They're getting ready to kind of, So it's interesting that you can read the situation by a different dog's reaction to that dog. Same thing with people. You can read people by seeing, they're interacting, and by one's reaction, you can sort of read into, the other one, what's going on. So it's just fascinating. I find it very fascinating. I learned so much from my baby. She truly left a huge legacy behind, and I feel really silly saying that a dog has a legacy, but you know what? It's true. And so I just want to share a few of them. I think that was 4, right? Using my sense of smell more, using my sense of hearing much more. Let's see here. Judging people's character, because dogs can do it in the matter of few seconds, and then reading body language. I mean, how powerful is that? Like just using those 4 things in addition to all the other things I do when I live my day-to-day life. That is so rich. It's like, it just adds so much more. I don't know. I feel better equipped, to live life and to go about my day and to make good decisions. Do you know what I mean? And that's the other thing. The 5th thing is, I guess it's sort of all combined, is that just being more aware of yourself. If you watch dogs carefully, they're very aware of people approaching. So like you might be in a huge field, and if there's like a dog running like way out there, they notice it. Do you know what I mean? If there's like a car driving way over there and, like it's like something's out of the ordinary, they'll notice it, So like I used to go out in public and like not pay attention to things. Sometimes my friends would be annoyed with me, and I never really understood why, or I didn't care. And now I'm like so much more aware of my surroundings, and so I pick up on things much faster because there was a time Azur and I were walking down the hall, and there was this tiny little dog that we had seen many, many times, but unfortunately the owner wasn't holding on to the dog's leash at that one instance, and the dog started running and actually tried to bite Azura. So right before she, that dog, that he snapped, I picked her up, and then he jumped, and then he got me in my right by my knee, and he bit me pretty, punctured. I had a puncture wound. And so that's just an example of why I learned to be alert. I didn't want, like any random dogs coming up and just, coming from behind me and just showing up, and their face is like right by her face. I didn't want that for many reasons. And so every time I was with her, I always had this just like big radius of awareness, and so I just didn't want any animals coming up and catching us by surprise. I can tell you more about that later, why I was so vigilant about that. So anyway, it just trained me. I exercised that skill every single second of every single time I took Azura out in public. So then, even though she's gone now, I still am using that, skill. Probably it has waned a tiny bit because I don't have that mama bear, protecting her cub, attitude anymore. I'm just by myself, but I think definitely that trait that I have, gained is still there. So anyway, there's a bonus, the 5th one. I know there's tons more, but at least I wanted to get this video out to you because I find it fascinating, and all the crazy hours I'm spending just watching dog videos, I do feel guilty for it. But at the same time, I am learning. I'm learning about all the different, dog breeds. I'm learning about animal behavior. It does help soothe my pain of missing Azura a little bit here and there. So anyway, that was a very rambly ending, but anyway, hope you're doing well. I still have so many things all running around inside my head I would like to cover, in future videos. I have